The U.S. Supreme Court is preparing to release a series of major rulings expected on January 14, 2026, and legal analysts say these decisions could reshape presidential power, trade policy, civil rights protections, and the authority of federal agencies, placing the court once again at the center of national debate. At the top of the docket is a high-profile challenge to President Donald Trump's global tariff program, a case that asks whether the president exceeded his authority by imposing sweeping trade duties under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a law originally designed to address national security emergencies rather than serve as a long-term trade policy tool. Businesses and trade groups argue that the administration effectively bypassed Congress, which holds constitutional power over tariffs, by invoking emergency powers to implement policies with lasting economic consequences. If the Supreme Court rules that the tariffs were unlawful, the federal government could be required to refund hundreds of billions of dollars in duties paid by importers, potentially sending shockwaves through global markets and the U.S. Treasury alike. Beyond tariffs, the court is also poised to rule on disputes involving the structure of the federal government itself, including cases that question whether presidents have the authority to remove leaders of independent agencies at will. Such a decision could significantly expand executive power, placing agencies like the Federal Trade Commission and the Securities and Exchange Commission under tighter White House control and altering how regulations are enforced across the economy. Supporters say this would make government more accountable to voters, while critics warn it could undermine institutional independence designed to shield regulators from political pressure. Civil rights issues are also front and center. The justices are reviewing cases that address state restrictions on transgender athletes participating in school sports, raising complex questions about equal protection under the Constitution and how federal anti-discrimination laws are applied. Whatever the court decides is expected to affect school districts nationwide, shaping policies that govern athletics, education, and student rights. Voting rights advocates are closely monitoring a challenge to the interpretation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, a landmark provision that for decades has protected minority communities from discriminatory redistricting. The outcome could influence how congressional and legislative maps are drawn in coming years, with implications for representation and political balance across the country. Criminal justice is another area under review. One case questions the federal ban on firearm possession by individuals deemed unlawful users of controlled substances, forcing the court to weigh Second Amendment protections against public safety concerns. Another case asks the justices to clarify how the double jeopardy clause applies to overlapping federal criminal charges, a ruling that could change how prosecutors pursue complex cases and how judges impose sentences. Together, these cases reflect a court grappling with fundamental questions about who holds power in American government, how rights are defined in modern society, and how far the president can go in shaping national policy without congressional approval. As Decision Day approaches, policymakers, businesses, advocacy groups, and citizens alike are preparing for rulings that may alter the legal landscape for years to come.